own conscience as human beings. I mean, and as African myself, I'm really mad when I speak this madness when I see what's going on in Central African Republic. We all failed. Now, as UNDP, what we are doing is on multiple fronts. As I told you earlier, that all these crises are failure of development and leadership, and we're investing a lot on development, but at the community level, and ensuring that we invest on community resilience. This is extremely important. And we are trying to help rebuild the institutions of the nations. Central African Republic failed because there were no strong institutions, let's face it. So it will take time. It won't be done overnight. But we'll be investing a lot into rebuilding these institutions. And now we're also helping them pay the salaries of civil servants, because if you don't have civil servants, step number one to rebuild the institution. So we are helping so. And then let's cross our fingers that elections will happen one day, but we are started already now to support the preparation of the elections.
Let's move to another area of operation of the United Nations Development Program, which is environmental protection and energy. The public rhetoric today is on climate change. And I have often asked this question to a majority of big international figures. How do you tell my old mother in Baturi not to cut the forest because she's destroying the environment? How do you tell somebody in the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the Bayamuyenges are in the majority, not to cut the trees, plant their food, and you tell them that they have to protect the environment?
You see, your grandmother and mine know better than you and I and the international community how to deal with this, and they did. They never destroyed the forest. The model we had for that under your grandmother and mine's time was the village. And the village was balanced in terms of all three. Now today we are talking about sustainable development, the three dimensions: economy, social, and the environment. Oh, they did it before us. When we are organizing Rio, we should be hearing their voices. They would have told us how to do it. They knew better. Believe me, they knew better.
But they are not part of the delegations. The delegations are made up of prime ministers, ministers, president, but these people who are really concerned are not part of the delegation. So how can their views be expressed?
No, we African leaders have to go back to our roots and learn what we have done. It's a shame that we are importing models that are from elsewhere.
Because the participatory approach is not working.
It's a leadership failure. It's a leadership failure. Development cannot take place artificially. Development takes place using the conditions, the cultural and social historic conditions of the nation, of the villages, of the communities. But we are not doing that. We are trying to just have an artificial way of doing development. If we started to do exactly what we used to do in the villages, we won't be here now. We talk about sustainable development. They did it before the letter. They did it before we even speak about human development and sustainable development. So let's go back to the past, to our roots, and learn again how to do development.
You said a while ago that one of the reasons why we have so many problems we have today in Africa and in most parts of the world is because people are not educated, and we need to educate people to enhance development and reduce poverty. Let me take you to a region like the northern part of Nigeria. How do you scale up the educational level to completely eradicate increasing militancy, which is fueled by poverty in the area?
Yeah, but let me come back. I never said that development didn't happen where people were not educated, although I agree with you that education is a critical factor for development. But we have to invest in people, but let's not confuse education with modern education, by the way. Yeah? I'm not saying that there is lack of education in northern Nigeria. Where I see failure in development is basically inequalities and exclusions on part of some territories that are not really included in the development process. If we want peace and security, we have to ensure that development is inclusive. Inclusive, I mean by inclusive, what they call in the economic jargon, horizontal inclusiveness, meaning you have to include regions, you have to include people, you have to include nationalities, ethnies.
You are talking of regional balance.
Inclusion. They have to be included. You cannot have part of the society being a territorial part or an ethnic part or a social part excluded in the process of development. It will bite you back.
So the era of positive discrimination should be over?
No, no, it can complement. To the contrary, when I see a group that has been excluded, I have to apply affirmative action so that that group is brought back into the development process.
I was shocked when I heard you speaking after an audience with the Prime Minister of Cameroon that the post-2015 model of development was inspired by Cameroon's growth and employment strategic paper. If it is all that good, why do we have a lot of development challenges in Cameroon?
It's a very good question. Cameroon has a vision. The Vision 2036 is well crafted.
Were you pampering the administration?
No, no, I never pamper. I tell you why, and I'll tell you where the difficulties are. Read again that Vision 2035 is exactly what we should be doing. And I was talking about structural economic transformation, ensuring that you don't only over-focus on the enclave economies, here oil, but ensure that the resources that you have are injected on productive sectors like agriculture, which is the bread and butter of this country, where you have most people. But where we have difficulties in Cameroon, I'm not shining away, is that the level of investment is still extremely weak, 20% of GDP, number one. And number two, the fiscal space is limited. And we can't deal with it. And for me, and it is something that I've been advocating, the way to deal with the fiscal space in most of the African countries, including Cameroon, is to limit these illicit financial flows. And we have them all over the countries. And we have done a study that showed that $60 billion leave yearly the continent, more than what we are getting in ODA.
That is the Africa Progress Report headed by former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan.
Inspired by a study done by the ADB and the ECA that more than, the average $80 billion leaving the continent. Yet ODA is just what, $40 to $50 billion.
Okay.
So if we limit that, we can do development here.
Okay, Mr. Abdoulaye, let us end this interview. In 2012, your boss, Helen Clark, said that the key way to take Africa forward is massive investment in agriculture. And that is what most economists and public figures are saying today, including Mo Ibrahim, somebody you surely know so well. Don't you think that it is increasingly becoming dangerous to invest so much in a particular sector and forget about others?
They never say forget about others. What they are saying is that we neglected agriculture. In the 80s, and that, I'm not faulting the structural adjustment programs, but they contributed to low level of investment in agriculture. Yet the matrix of our development, the matrix of our society is agriculture. We have to go back to agriculture if we want to really do development in our continent.
Is that what actually your home country, Senegal, has embarked on?
Senegal is trying to, they have the plan that called going back to the land, which we all support, going back to the land. We have deserted the land. It's not only in Senegal, all over Africa. If you don't go back to our land, some people will try to come and catch our land, and will never develop.
But this land is increasingly being given to foreigners. So how do you balance the equation?
It is a shame. Whatever government gives the land to the foreigner is a shame. You don't give land. Land is not only an economic asset, it's a cultural asset. It's something deep in your DNA. You don't give your land to people. And if you want to develop, you have to go back there, develop economically, socially, and culturally. We have to reclaim Africa's land and then give it to our generation, our youth, so that they go and then invest for agriculture. No country has developed without that. Be it India, be it China, be it even the United States. So we have to go back to the land and then make Africa develop better.
The Assistant Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme and the agency's Regional Director for Africa, Abdoulaye Ma, thanks very much for being part of my program today.
Thank you for your inspiring questions.
You are welcome.
Thank you.